Inside Politics, 8:30 Eastern on CNN.
In the Crossfire, the police beating in California. Officers out of control or just business as usual?
This is a national problem. It has been a national problem for more than 20 years. It's a problem of discipline, training, officer retention, and leadership and policy. It needs to be addressed right now.
Live from Washington, Crossfire. On the left, Bill Press. On the right, Robert Novak. Tonight, Force Under Fire. In the Crossfire, James Fotis, Executive Director of the Law Enforcement Alliance of America. In Riverside, California, Dan Swift, President of the Riverside County Sheriff's Association. And in New York, Raul Isaguirre, President of the National Council of La Raza.
Good evening, I'm Bill Press. We know what happens to us when we break the law. Well, what happens to the police when they break the law? That question's back again because of Monday's now already infamous beating of two people by sheriff's deputies from Riverside County, California. Granted, the video doesn't tell you everything, but it sure looks like the citizens were not resisting arrest, and it sure looks like the deputies were using excessive force, and it sure looks like the Rodney King beating all over again. High-speed chase, suspects finally apprehended, officers out of control. Of course, because Monday's victims were illegal aliens, this latest beating also raises the question of whether today's political climate, where tough talk about illegal immigrants is commonplace, has, in this case and others, led to actual physical abuse. So, in tonight's Crossfire, how widespread is police brutality and how to protect citizens from cops who abuse their power? Bob?
Deputy Sheriff Swift in Riverside, you were quoted in this morning's Los Angeles Times as saying, "We are 100% behind our deputies," unquote. Surely, sir, you're not talking about those deputies, are you?
Yes, sir, I am.
How can you be 100% behind the thugs like that who are beating people mercilessly with batons?
Well, how can you make a statement like that? That is 15 minutes or 15 seconds of videotape in an over 2-hour incident. That is one isolated part. And the investigation is just being conducted. Grant's being conducted by 3 agencies, but it has just started. There is due process, and those members are innocent and are facing charges, but we are behind them. I'm not going to evaluate. I did not conduct the investigation, nor am I conducting the investigation. But those 2 officers we're 100% in support of our 2 officers.
Do you know, sir, that when you make a statement like that you're behind those officers, that you sicken conservatives like me who have always been for law and order, when you can see that with your own eyes, that those people were just mercilessly beating those people, what could possibly give them a justification for such a beating?
Well, I'm not going to discuss the merits of the incident itself because I haven't even talked to the officers themselves about what was in their mind and what went through. If you're asking policies and procedure questions, that's a question for the department to answer as far as our training and procedures. But if you're asking as to why we are supporting those officers, because nobody else is. We are their association, and we're behind them 100%.
You're a union then, and you're just, as a union, you're just saying they can do no wrong, whether they would kick them or pummel them, whether they would go against all restraints. As a union officer, you're for those people. Is that what you're saying?
No, sir. You have them tried and convicted already based on 15 seconds of videotape. Last time I looked, the Constitution allows due process for everybody, including police officers. Okay, the investigation is being conducted. Until the investigation is over with, nobody knows what the facts are. You don't know what they are. I don't know what they are. Nobody knows what they are. And until those facts are in, what you have is 15 seconds of videotape and a whole lot of hoopla.
The official spokesman for the Riverside County Sheriff's Department said, quote, "We're very embarrassed and we're seriously concerned about the conduct of our officers," unquote. Do you disagree with that?
No, they should be concerned.
They
should be concerned about all officers.
Are you embarrassed by that? By what you saw?
No, sir. Am I embarrassed?
Yeah.
No, sir, because I don't know what led up to that. What you've seen is a use of force. Okay, the Sheriff's Department engages in use of force investigations all the time, whether it's this one, and they will continue to engage in use of force. We have shootings. That's a use of force. Anything is a use of force, and the department investigates those. They have rules and regulations for using force and escalation of force.
All right.
The question is not the force that was used, is whether or not it was justified. And until we know what the actions were that led up to that and the officer's state of mind at that point in time, everything else is speculation.
All right, officer, thank you. Bob, I don't know how much you and I are going to end up disagreeing tonight, probably before the end of the show. But
I guarantee you.
Mr. Fotis, let me turn to you and ask you, I've heard you've said, sir, that these officers didn't act any differently than any other officer would have acted. Did you really mean that?
Well, what I said was, under the circumstances and not knowing what these particular group of people had with them, you didn't know, you were chasing 21 people on a high-speed chase. First, your adrenaline is pumping. You have no idea what's going on in that truck. They're throwing things at you. They're being very abrasive. They're trying to get the police off their tail. They're banging into cars. Now, let's just turn the situation around. What if that truck turned over, killed some of those people, killed a bunch of innocent bystanders? Where would those cops be at this point?
But I want to come back to your statement that these officers did what any other officer would have done.
They did what they probably needed to do. And again, what we're looking at is...
Why did they need to do this?
The clarifying point is, a police officer, when he stops somebody, he doesn't know whether they have a gun, whether they have a knife, and they're not responding to what he's saying. We don't have any audio on that tape. We don't have anything that says what was going on down there other than a videotape.
Isn't there something about you use the amount of force necessary to stop and arrest the suspect, correct?
Use the amount of force necessary to equal and opposite force, okay? So, but the fact of the matter is the force that was used was necessary to get those people in a position so they could not hurt the police officer.
You're drawing that conclusion?
You're drawing that conclusion from the 15 seconds, but you're really saying that it was necessary to pull that woman by her hair to get her out of the truck, to beat her in the back to get her out of the truck?
What I believe is we were not there. We do not know what the situation is. You people already have those police officers convicted. And that's not the system. They're innocent until proven guilty.
Let me ask
I believe
Mr. Fotis.
we're not a union, so therefore...
One more, Bob. So what, you're really saying that every police officer, what I hear you saying, that no police officer would be able to restrain himself, that every police officer would go overboard like that.
Have you ever been on the street? Police officers have to make decisions. They have to make decisions immediately, in seconds, and they have to make the right decisions, but they also have a responsibility to their department, to their families, to protect themselves. And that's what these people, in the end, it's going to come out that these police officers did not do anything wrong. They probably did it correctly, and by the book, and by the way, the SOPs of their department probably show them what to do.
I just can't believe I'm hearing what I'm hearing, because you're not a union. I mean,
we are not. In fact, we're a victims' rights group, and we see police being victimized every day.
And do you think you are a distinguished police officer, one of the most highly decorated police officers in your town in New York, the most highly decorated? Do you believe that as you watch that was proper police procedure?
What I believe is that you are condemning those police officers.
I asked you a question,
you are condemning
I'd like
them.
an answer. Do you think that was proper
I don't know what the SOPs of that department were, and I don't know what transpired. So we cannot say what was proper and what was improper. We're judging these people on 15 seconds worth of tape.
All right, I want to ask Deputy Swift a question, if I could. The statistics show that in San Bernardino County, California, out of 682 apprehensions, 41% of the people apprehended suffered injuries, sustained injuries after their apprehension. Is that a problem? Once you arrest somebody, you beat them up?
You're quoting a statistic from San Bernardino County, not Riverside County.
Yeah. I mean, do you think I mean, I don't know if anything embarrasses you guys, but does that embarrass you that 41% of the people sustain injuries after they are apprehended, not before they're apprehended?
You're not asking me a question I can answer about Riverside County. I've spent my 10.5 years in Riverside County.
All right,
you're asking me about another agency and to speculate on something that's really well beyond.
I'm sorry, that is a combination of 3 counties, including Riverside. That doesn't the sustain. It's the whole Inland Empire. Does that the sustaining of injuries by people after they have been apprehended, doesn't that concern you as a policeman?
I mean, we don't know.
I can't comment on a statistic like that to just throw it out. I have no idea what led up to those or anything else.
The statistic that you're putting out there, do we know how those injuries were sustained after they were arrested? You're saying it doesn't say that the police inflicted those injuries. It says something happened to them after they were arrested. We don't have anything that shows that police inflicted those injuries.
Well, let me ask you this, Mr. Post. This is hardly the first case of what I think appears to be excessive use of force by police. Rodney King wasn't the first case. How many more of these are we going to see before we see some changes on the part of police departments around this country?
How many times a day do police arrest people? Thousands of times. How many of these types of incidents do we see on TV?
But let me ask you this.
Very few.
How many cases of abuse?
Are we condemning 600,000 police because of one case? If you are, then we've got a real problem.
So, but how many cases of abuse happen that we don't see on videotape is what I want to know.
How many cases of abuse happen anywhere?
But let me put this in perspective, Bob, just one second. I called the city of L.A. today. I want to give a taxpayer's perspective of this. Since 1990 to 1995, I'm sorry, in L.A. City, for police illegalities, the city has spent $77.4 million in settlements on those police cases.
Can I tell you why that happened?
Afford this police abuse?
Police are not allowed to defend themselves. They're usually settled by insurance settlements by the municipality so that they don't have to spend additional money on court rates.
For cops?
I think that it's a large municipality, and I don't think it's a fact anything proves anything that they haven't behaved themselves.
Okay, we're going to have to take a break, and when we come back, we'll be joined by an advocate of Hispanic rights who says that the beating in Riverside County had a racial bias to it.
Crossfire is brought to you by UUNet, the Internet at work.
You know that being on the internet is critical to your business, but you
don't know who to turn to for advanced internet solutions. After all, you
need the most reliable, highest capacity service while you
have to keep your business information secure, so
you look for a company with solid internet experience that
you know is totally focused on your business needs, and
you find one company that can really make the internet work for you.
UUNet, the internet at work.
Research, just the most exciting thing you can do. I love it, and I'm so privileged to be able still to do it. A pharmaceutical company produces a huge quantity of resources. The fact that we've been successful is due to the work of so many, many people who've made their contributions.
You turn a dial, and the numbers crunch, and the cubes crush, and the ink dries, and the word spreads, and the question is raised, and the answer is found, and the picture talks, and the doctor sees, and the speaker sings, and the plant hums, and the engine glides, and the blades fly, and the sky clears.
For people, for the economy, for the planet, electricity, the power to make life better.
And the day is done, and the two are one, and the cares all slip away.
They are the sheep, and we are the shepherds. We tell them that college is the doorway. We tell them to prepare for the future. But the question remains, will we?
They also operate in a climate that makes it okay to do these kinds of things. The kind of scapegoating that has laid all the blame for the state's economic woes on the backs of the immigrant people simply must stop. This is what gave these officers permission in their minds, in full view of the world, with a TV camera overhead, to do exactly what they did, that they thought, with impunity.
Welcome back to Crossfire. The latest amateur video of cops caught in the act shows officers from Riverside County, California, pounding away at illegal immigrants they have apprehended. Is this an outgrowth of anti-immigrant fever stirred up by politicians? That's the position of Raul Izaguirre, president of the National Council of La Raza, who now joins us in New York. He joins two defenders of the police in Riverside County, California, Dan Swift, president of the Riverside County Sheriff's Association, and here in Washington, James Fotis, executive director of the Law Enforcement Alliance of America. Mr. Izagari, isn't it a stretch to try to use this horrible incident as part of your attempt to justify illegal immigration?
Interest in defending illegal immigration. On the contrary, we support greater border enforcement and greater resources for the Border Patrol. What we are saying is that in California and in other parts of the nation, a climate of fear has been created, a climate of scapegoating. What has happened is that we've demonized a class of human beings, and we created a situation where these kinds of incidents are more likely to happen. It's difficult for me to conceive of somebody driving down the highway at 100 miles an hour in a Mercedes-Benz who's an Anglo-Saxon and being treated the way that these individuals were treated.
Mr. Izagari, if you watch your television as much as Mr. Press and I watch television, or at least as much as I always watch CNN, of course, you could conceive of it because it just happened a few weeks ago in South Carolina, where a state trooper in an unmarked car took a woman who was speeding, manhandled her, threw her on her back, gave her bodily injury, and she was as white as the driven snow. How do you explain that?
I'm sure that there are exceptions to every generality. What I'm saying is that if you look at the statistics, if you look at the level of incidents, there's a correlation between class and ethnicity and race. We are more apt to be the victims of police brutality than any other group. Police use of deadly force against Hispanics has been a very significant problem that we've documented in the National Council of La Raza, and regrettably we have not been able to get the kind of attention that the situation merits. The Christopher Commission documented that in LA County a long time ago, and this situation continues to be a real threat to our public safety.
Well, let me give you a different hypothesis, sir, that I'd like you to entertain, and that is that there is a police problem in America of rudeness, of overreaction, and because there is much more contact with minority groups than with the majority group, it seems like it's prejudice, but they treat everybody miserably. They are equal opportunity brutalists. How about that theory?
Well, that doesn't make me feel much better. If anybody that's mistreated by the police, be they black, white, Hispanic, Asian, or Native American, I think it's a cause for concern. But there clearly is a racial aspect, an ethnic aspect, a civil rights aspect of what we're talking about. And there's also another dimension that I want to make sure we understand. Police officers have no business enforcing immigration laws. This country for a long time has made it very clear, we have a tradition that only immigration officers ought to be enforcing immigration laws because they're very complicated, because it takes special training, because there are issues of probable cause that are different than in other kinds of police situations.
All right, Mr. Izagari, I want to pick up on that point with Mr. Fotis. Let's go back to how this whole thing started, this high-speed chase. You know, I lived in Southern California. These high-speed chases make great television. When that happens, everybody in the newsroom gets excited, every monitor, everybody's got to turn their TV on. What good, though, do these high-speed chases do other than make good TV?
Well, I agree. High-speed chases have pretty much been outlawed unless it's a fleeing
except in Riverside, apparently.
Unless it's a fleeing felon in many departments in the United States, because we do suffer extraneous losses. People get injured outside of the chase. But the fact of the matter is that this chase started by the Border Patrol. The officers who got involved didn't know exactly what the situation was. And we can ask Mr. Izagari, since when was driving 100 miles an hour and recklessly an immigration law?
Well, but let me ask you first, to continue that, isn't with today's technology, and first of all, you got border to border, city to city, county to county, you got all these different police forces, you got radios, you've got helicopters. Doesn't the technology exist to just sort of say, hey, here's somebody heading your way, looks like a truckload of illegal aliens? They don't have to chase them to catch them,
I think in in an 80 or whatever it was mile chase that there were probably other law enforcement officials involved at each step of the way and maybe stopping at different areas.
Now, back to what you said. Do you think they would have been gone 100 miles an hour if the cops hadn't been pursuing them?
The fact of the matter is police officers are there to enforce the law. Laws were broken. They were trying to enforce those laws. You know,
enforce the laws. Do deputies, but let me ask you his question. Do deputies sheriffs, county sheriffs, enforce immigration law?
What I'm saying is it's not immigration law. They were breaking local law.
I think Mr. Swift is better equipped to answer that. What were the deputies doing enforcing an immigration law, or were they enforcing an immigration law?
No, the sheriff's deputies don't enforce immigration laws, and they were not enforcing immigration laws. The chase was started by the Border Patrol.
So this was just a speeding case? Was that it? What were they chasing these people for?
Well, that's part of the ongoing investigation, and something I really can't talk about, and that's part of a lot, listening in on your conversation, a lot of what you're speculating on at this point is what will eventually come out, and those questions will be answered when the investigation is completed. And as of right now, everyone's operating a vacuum. This is a perfect example. You guys are posing questions, talking about helicopters, other procedures, what's our pursuit policy, all those things. That will all come out when the investigation is done. But right now, you guys, you're typifying what's been my complaint is everyone's operating in a vacuum with an opinion, but they've got no facts to base those on, and a lot of your questions will be answered.
Let me ask you a theoretical question then, sir. What in the world, you say the chase was started by the Border Patrol. You said that, I didn't say it. What would be the procedure, the standard operating procedures, where some kind of a chase is started by the Border Patrol, which is an immigration case? Why would your county sheriff's department theoretically take over that chase?
Well, that's our policies and procedures, and the Riverside Sheriff's Department is one of the most restrictive pursuit policies in the state, as a matter of fact. What the policies and procedures are about 6 pages worth in our general orders manuals, and to cover a lot of different situations. Specifically, we can chase someone for a known felony or suspected drunk driver.
Well,
now, if you're going to ask me what it is the Border Patrol told us to get us involved in the pursuit to where we have criminal offenses occurring in the state, I don't have that answer.
Officer, I'm going to follow that up because I know that area pretty well. And if this car, in fact, was speeding on the freeway, driving recklessly on the freeway, again, I want to ask, what is your jurisdiction? If it's not the INS, why wasn't it the jurisdiction of the California Highway Patrol, who might have been better equipped and better trained to handle a situation like that? A quick answer.
Well, that's, again, a policies and procedure question. There are a lot of different variables can enter into that. And specifically as to why we had it and not the Highway Patrol, I'm not privy to that question.
Officer, thank you very much. Officer Dan Swift in Riverside, thank you for joining us. Mr. Izagiri in New York, thank you for being with us this evening.
My pleasure.
And Mr. Fotis here in the studio, thank you also for joining us. When we come back, Bob Novak and I, a final word on this latest case of police brutality.
As we developed the Porsche 911 Carrera, our German test center was buzzing with innovation. A radical suspension, a more powerful engine. The suggestions came from far and wide. Of course, the 911 is still available in red, black, and white. But what fun would that be?
I'm 62. Can I still help prevent osteoporosis?
It's never too late for Caltrate. Caltrate Plus has the extra calcium you need, plus 6 nutrients essential for healthy bones, whatever your age.
It's never too late for Caltrate.
Monday, I soak my dentures.
I use Dentu-Cream.
Tuesday, I brush.
I use Dentu-Cream.
Wednesday,
Stop. Just use Dentu-Cream. Its special stain fighters clean much better than soaps, and it's got minty mouthwash ingredient. All you need is Dentu-Cream.
This GE compact fluorescent bulb gives you soft, warm light.
Take the ball, Jamie.
It's an energy-efficient bulb that lasts year after year.
Hit the ball, Jamie.
Up to 9,000 hours longer than an ordinary bulb.
Outside with the ball, Jamie.
So it won't need to be changed for about 7 years.
Hey, Jamie, how many grown-ups says take to change a light bulb? Change a light bulb? Why would anybody need to change a light bulb?
The revolutionary GE compact fluorescent bulb.
Frank Langella as Pharaoh, Ben Kingsley as Moses. A magnificent 2-part motion picture from TNT. Moses. See the world premiere Easter Sunday night on TNT.
Hello, I'm Natalie Allen. Tonight on Prime News, we'll bring you the very latest on the crash of an airplane carrying Commerce Secretary Ron Brown and 32 others. The State Department has released names of those on board. Also, he's a Harvard grad and a former math teacher. Is he also the Unabomber? Join Lyndon Souls and me for Prime News. It's right after Crossfire.
McDonald's invites you to play the Disney Video Masterpiece Collection Trivia Challenge. The biggest trivia game ever at McDonald's. Pick the right answer to questions about Disney Masterpiece Collection videos and win every time. Over 300 million prizes. Win a cool $1 million. Hot McDonald's food. Disney videos. Come play today. It's gonna be magic.
Relax. Take your shoes off.
I'm more comfortable like this.
Really?
Well,
Millions of people suffer from toenail fungus, thick, brittle yellow nails.
you have no idea what's bothering me.
Oh, I've been in your shoes. You can do something about toenail fungus. Talk to your doctor or call 1-800-NAILS-90.
For info?
Uh-huh. About new treatments.
So I should talk with my doctor.
Or call 1-800...
Nails 90. Weird soulmates.
From Janssen Pharmaceutica, world leader in antifungal research.
In the beginning, investors wandered the land, pursuing success, fleeing misfortune. Slowly, some investors tired of following the herd. They learned to tame the beast called wealth. They built a wall around it, and then a future. Are you still wandering around in the dark, or are you ready to settle down and build something? Ask your financial advisor about Kemper funds to start building tomorrows, today.
Sunday on CNN Presents, 10 years after the world's worst nuclear accident. Could Chernobyl be a nightmare waiting to happen again? On the next CNN Presents, Sunday, 9 Eastern.
For a multimedia look at today's news, check out CNN Interactive on the World Wide Web at CNN.com. You can access our site through the AT&T Business Network.
Bill, I made an embarrassing mistake. The woman who was manhandled in South Carolina was not white, she was black. I saw the thing about a half a dozen times. It just shows how colorblind I am. Bill, I think we have a terrific police problem in this country. It scares me. As a conservative, it scares me. But I wish you hypocritical liberals would admit that it also applies to Ruby Ridge and Waco, that the federal officers have also been out of control.
You're right, there's a police problem, Bob. You're wrong if you don't think that blacks and Latinos are particular targets of police. If you don't believe that, you haven't lived in Southern California.
How do you explain Ruby Ridge and Waco?
And I'm from the left, Bill Press. Good night for Crossfire.
I won't talk about Ruby Ridge and Waco. From the right, I'm Robert Novak. Join us again next time for another edition of Crossfire.
Closed captioning was provided by Bell Atlantic, the heart of communication.
Tonight on CNN's Larry King Live, a tribute to U.S. Commerce Secretary Ron Brown aboard a plane which crashed in the Balkans. Tonight, 9 Eastern on CNN.